Hello and welcome everyone, this is Calebovitsch, and today I would like to tell you how to play the fabulous TCG called Flesh and Blood. In this game, you are a hero, and you come prepared to the arena with some equipment, you have your deck, and the goal of the game is to get the opponent's health down from their starting life total down to 0 or below if you're going for the overkill. P.S. There is no such thing as an overkill in the rules, but let's go for the overkill always. All right, this game, the game's rules by themselves, are rather simple, but the deeper into the game you go, the deeper into the mechanics you go, the intricacies and the combinations are just so wonderful that this is truly a deep game. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me tell you about the cards themselves, or rather the card anatomy. First of all, as I said, you play as a hero, and you can play as Dorinthia Ironsong, the warrior, or Reiner, the brute, or Bravo, the guardian, or Katsu, the ninja, or Azalea, the ranger, or Dash, the mechanologist inventor, or Viserai, the runeblade, or Kano, the wizard, or Kasai, another warrior, or Ira, the ninja, or Kaio, the berserker brute, or Levia, the shadow brute, or Ser Bolton, the light warrior, Prism, the light illusionist, Chain, the shadow runeblade, and I guess if I went across the room, I would give you a couple of more heroes from the newest expansion, Tales of Aria, as well, but I just don't have them too handy. So what a hero does is, let's get into the characteristics of a hero. Well, first of all, you're playing as a younger or the more adult version of a hero. Their ability is the same, but the most important things are obviously the name, the artwork, and the hero type. So Dorinthia is a warrior, which means in her deck she can play warrior cards or generic cards. Now, if instead you were playing as Ser Bolton, the light warrior hero, you can have light cards, warrior cards, light warrior cards, generic cards, and that's it. So that's a lot of deck building coming into this. But as far as the cards themselves, in the lower left corner, you have the hero's intellect, which is essentially the hand size, or rather the amount of cards you draw up to at the end of your turn. And here is the starting life total, which for most young heroes is 20, and for most regular heroes or older heroes is 40. Obviously, there is the effect of the card. For the younger and older version, it's exactly the same, but there are more things happening on other cards as well. So let's go into a regular card. I'm going to show you an example of a generic card. This is a generic Snatch. So first of all, here in this corner, you have the pitch value of the card. And here's the cost. Here's the attack value, here's the defense value. And already here you can see that the multi-purpose use of the cards is where this game will get very interesting, because you can use this card as your resources to pitch it. You can play it for its attack value, or you can just defend with it. Playing and defending, I will get to that when combat begins. So yes, pitching the card. You can, on your turn, if you want to pay for the cost of a card, you can say, I'm pitching this, then it goes over here to the pitch zone on the right side of the play area, and it gives you 2 resources to later be able to play for costs of some other cards that are right here in the upper right corner. Then you can play the card for 0 resources, and the costs for cards go from 0, 1, 2, 3, even as high as 9, I guess, or double X for some modular cards. The attack value is on some attack cards, because either your hero attacks with a weapon they already have, or they are using some action attacks. But if you don't want to use it for resources, if you don't want to attack with it, you can also, on your opponent's turn, you can defend with this card and take less damage from what they would like to deal to you. Obviously, there's the name, artwork, what the card does, and what the card is. Generic action attack, which means generic, it can be played in any deck. Okay, there are also different types of cards in this game. So I've already talked about hero, but there are also equipment you come into play with. So your hero has 2 hands, like a regular person, so they can use either a 2-handed weapon, warrior weapon, so she can wield it, it's a 2-hander, or she can use 2 Centauri sabers, both 1-handed swords for warriors. Aside from that, your hero, in a pure RPG fashion, has 4 slots for equipment on their head, equipment head, chest, equipment chest, for arms, and for legs. And these are the cards you actually start your game with, your weapon and your 4 items. So you come to the arena, to the battle area, well equipped already. So that's good news. You knew what you were doing. Congratulations. As far as, and those cards start the game already in play. They are not part of your deck per se. But what comes in your deck are actions that are also attacks, actions that are not attacks and don't have an attack value, actions of many different varieties like action items or action auras, or probably some other actions that I don't have handy here. There are also attack reactions, defense reactions, and instants. And I will get to what they do and when you can play them in a moment when I talk about the turn. So, when you're building your deck for Flesh and Blood, there are several game formats. There are a couple of limited play formats, such as Sealed Deck and Draft, where you come to a tournament, you receive a pool of cards, and you have to build your deck from them. You can use any token type, hero or weapon, and there are usually 3 or 4 heroes per format that you can use, so you have a choice, one of several. But the rest of the cards have to come into your deck, and in limited formats, your deck has to have at least 30 cards. But there are also 2 constructed formats. One is called Blitz. It uses the younger versions of the hero. It is supposedly faster, with games lasting 10 to 20 minutes on average. You start the game on a lower life total, and you can have up to 2 copies of each card in your deck. And here's the fun part about the number of cards and the types of cards. Because here in Flesh and Blood, I will give you an example of these 3 Razor Reflexes. And these cards, according to the game rules, are different cards because, well, they might have the same name, they might have the same cool artwork, but they act differently because there is a red card or a 1-pitch card, there's a blue card or a 2-pitch 2 card, and a blue card or a pitch 3 card. And the general game balance is that more than 95% of commons and rares in the game have all 3 pitch values, and usually the blue cards act more like your resources or lands if you come from other card games, while the red cards have a much bigger effect. So for example, the blue card gives you 3 resources if you pitch it, but if you play it, it gives your sword or dagger weapon this turn +1 attack. If you play the blue one, if you pitch it, you gain 2 resources, but if you play it, paying 1, target sword or dagger weapon attack gains +2 attack this turn, or an attack action card gains +2 attack this turn. And if you play the red one, if you pitch it, you only get 1 resource, but if you play it, it has the biggest effect, that is 3. And the same goes for example, action attacks. You have your Raging Onslaught, right? So all of them cost 3. I don't know if the camera is focused enough, but the cost in the upper right corner is 3. Sorry, mix these up. And the blue one attacks for 5, the yellow one attacks for 6, the red one attacks for 7. So usually you're using the blues to pitch, to give you resources, and you're playing the reds for the bigger effect. that's the short version of what these different cards are. So for each of the cards, which means for each of the pitch values, you can have, in Blitz, you can have 2 copies in your deck. So if you say Raging Onslaught, you can have 2 copies of the blue blue one, 2 copies of the yellow one, and 2 copies of the red one. So that's already 6 cards out of your 40 card deck. In the classic constructed format, you are playing with the adult version of the hero, so that's 40 health. So that's a that's a much longer game plan. Games here last 30 to 50 minutes, so they're 2-3 times longer than in Blitz, and your deck can have 3 copies of each pitch of each card. Seems simple. Obviously, the deck building restrictions I've already talked about, which is you can use generics and your class cards for your hero, unless they have additional types like elemental or light or shadow or something like that. Okay, so that's it when it comes to just generic what the cards are and what they're doing. So what does the game look like? So you start the game already prepared. You have your hero, you have your weapon. Let's use this two-handed Dawnblade. You have your headpiece, you have your chest piece, you have some equipment on your arms and on your legs, and they are all really cool, and they do something, and they honestly act like additional special abilities for your heroes. They can also defend until they get worn out with Blade Break, Battle Worn, Temper. Everything is there on reminder text, so I'm not going to go through those abilities right now, but in general they act as additional health buffers for you, and they have some additional abilities, like for example, if you pay 1 resource and destroy your arms, sorry, your arm armor, your weapon attacks gain +1 attack this turn, and you get to go again, which means you get to do more things. I'm going to get to that in a moment. And at the start of the game, and at the start of and at the end of each of your turns, you draw a hand of 4 cards, because your hero's intellect is 4 for definite majority of the heroes. And how your turn works is you start a turn. There's an opponent across from you. Hello, opponent, and may the best Calebovitsch win. And you have 1 action point, which means you can play 1 action. But on some of the actions, there is a text called Go Again, which means you can play it, and then you go again, and you can continue your turn until you stop refreshing your action point, you run out of cards in your hand, you run out of resources, or you just don't want to do anything else, or you can't do anything else. Okay? So you get that action point, and you get to play cards. You have to pitch cards from your hand to have resources to be able to play those cards. And at the end of your turn, you draw up to your hand size. On the first turn of the game, or rather what people call turn 0, both players get to redraw their hand up to 4. But on every on every following turn, only the active player or the turn player gets to draw their hand, which means if this is later in the game and I draw my hand of 4 cards, this is now the opponent's turn. They are doing something which usually consists of attacking us in many different ways. Then you're looking at your hand. You're thinking, okay, so I am going to defend this attack with this card because I will not be using it. They're attacking again, so I will defend with this card because I will not be using it. And then on my turn, I only have the 2 remaining cards to use to pitch for resources or to play them to try to attack the opponent. So there is a give and take, a tug of war during the whole game. And this is one of the things that makes the game more interesting. Is it more worth it to take some damage right now, but to have more options during my turn, or maybe my hand is not really combo-y enough, it is not going to play well together, and then I'm just defending on this turn. On my turn, I'm not doing anything, I'm just redrawing to my hand, and I'm looking for a better opportunity to mess with the opponent's life total. Okay, so that's the generics. Now back to my turn. Let's say this is not turn 0, so I just want to go on an all-out attack. And this is what you can do. Like, if you're playing Dorinthia, the warrior, she has an effect. When a weapon you control hits, you may attack an additional time with that weapon this turn. And weapon says once per turn action, pay 1 resource, attack. And then if you are able to attack with Dawnblade with this specific weapon twice, and it hits, if it hits the opponent twice in a turn, you get to put a +1 counter on it. So a turn could look something like this, and I'm going to take you through everything from playing through combat till the end of turn procedure. Okay, so I have my action point. I would like to attack my opponent with this weapon at least twice. So I am playing something called Warrior's Valor. It costs 1, so I have to pitch a card. It gives me 3 resources, so I mark here that I will be left with 2 resources. I can do it with some beads, I can do it with a dice, anything goes, seriously, anything goes. And this card says, your next weapon attack this turn gains +3 attack, and if this hits, the attack gains go again. And the card itself says go again, which means I get to refresh my action point. Now, given that I still have an action point, I'm going to pay a resource. I'm going to attack with my Dawnblade. It attacks for 3, +3 from Warrior's Valor over here. Now, I'm left with 2 cards in my hand, and the opponent is thinking, what shall I do? What shall I do? So they look at their hand, and they go like, okay, so I have 4 cards in my hand, so I will block this with this for 3 and this for 3. And you can just play card from your hand to use their blocking value to block right here. So it would seem that I will not be dealing any damage to the opponent, and right now the math goes like this. I attack for 6, the opponent is blocking for 6, which means I am dealing 0 damage, 6 minus 6 is 0, which means I will not get any on-hit effects. But after I attack and they block, there's the reaction step. And now I can play cards called attack reactions, after which the opponent can play defense reactions. And this is also a back and forth until both players pass and no more reactions are played. Then you once again sum up the attack value of the attack, reduce it by the defense value from the defender, and if it is higher than 0, then you deal some damage to the opponent, take them down from 20 to a lower number. So let's say in this case, I'm going to do an attack reaction called Iron Song Response. It is a warrior attack reaction called that says reprise, that's a keyword for warrior. If the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand this chain link, this is called a chain link. This is a combat chain. This is a chain link, which is first instance of one instance of combat, one instance of an attack. Target weapon attack, which is this Dawnblade, gets +2 attack. So I play this. Opponent doesn't have any defense reactions. They cannot add defending cards from their hand anymore because that ship has sailed. And right now it is 3 + 3 + 2, that's 8 on my side, 6 defense on the opponent's side, so I get to hit the opponent for 2, reducing their total from 20 to 18. Okay, but I was able to hit, so the attack gains go again, which means I refresh my action point. I also can use this once per turn action once again because my warrior says so. And I still have 1 resource point, I still have 1 card in my hand. And for a warrior, the thing is easy. I get to immediately take my weapon and attack with it again. So this is still the combat chain. This is chain link number 1. And if I follow an attack with an attack, this is chain link, the next chain link number 2 in this combat chain. And some cards have additional effects for your whole combat chain, for a specific chain link, etc., etc. That's why the terminology is here. So, second attack, I have to pay a resource, and I'm attacking the opponent for 3, and they're asking, what, again? Apparently they haven't played against a warrior, because attacking with your Dawnblade is what you do. So they're thinking, no, I'm not going to let you deal damage to me. You're attacking just for 3, and if I let you hit me again, shame on me, but also, you're gonna get a counter on your weapon, and it's gonna be attacking for more on the following turns. So I'm going to once again block for 3. But fortunately, I have an additional card that says reprise. If the defending hero has defended with a card from their hand, this chain link, and it costs 0, so I don't have to pay any more resources for it. Target weapon attack gains +3. So it's 6 against 3. I deal 3 more damage to the opponent. They go down from 18 to 15, and I get to put a counter on my weapon. And that is the end of my turn. All opponent's cards go to their discard pile. All my cards go to my discard pile. If I'm left with any cards in hand at the end of my turn, I can take one of them. For example, if I didn't use the second Iron Song response on the second attack, and I kept it, I can take that card, put it into my arsenal zone. This is like having a bonus 5th card to use on your future turns. The thing is, if you have a card in your arsenal, it is hidden from the opponent, unless there are some effects that place it face up for some of the heroes, but it is hidden from the opponent. They don't know what it is, and you can still play it on their turn, on your turn, whenever you can normally play it. You cannot pitch it for resources. You cannot defend with it, unless it's a defense reaction, but that's a whole different thing. But you can play it. Then all cards that you have pitched go to the bottom of your deck, and you draw a new hand of 4 cards. Now it's the opponent's turn, and they get to attack you with whatever they have left, be it attack actions, be it their weapon, be it anything else they can come up with. You get to defend with the cards that you have in hand, and this is the moment where you think about what you want to do on your turn. So there is some thinking for the future in this game all the time. Okay? Okay. As a conclusion, you defend with your hand first. You choose which cards you will not be using on your turn, or if you don't want to let the opponent's attacks come through. And then the rest of the cards that you are left with, you can use on your turn. In this game, there are a lot of keywords, but most of them are explained on the cards. For example, for the first 4 heroes that came with the game in the first expansion, every one of them has a keyword because every hero does things differently. For example, for Dorinthia the Warrior, you might have seen the reprise effects, which means if your opponent is defending your attacks, then your attacks as the warrior get bigger. For Reiner the Brute, they get to intimidate the opponent, which means they cannot defend with their full hand. They temporarily remove cards from their hand until the end of the turn. For the ninja, it is all about doing some combo attacks, which means most of your attacks have go again. And if you follow a specific attack with another specific attack, it gets a bonus. And then you can go for another specific attack for an additional bonus. And the last one, Bravo the Guardian, is just like a huge defensive beast with a lot of expensive cards. And usually they're not going again, they're just building up for one huge attack, and their ability is called Crush, the ability on their cards, that says when they deal at least 4 damage to the opponent with that attack, there's a bad effect for the opponent. It could be a spinal crush, it could be a crushing blow, it could be a crushing crush, but it is always bad if you let a Guardian's attack come through. Okay, so the turns go back and forth between you and your opponent until, well, if you're in a tournament, time runs out, or if you start running out of cards in your deck. And here's an additional piece of information, because you will be drawing cards, you will be playing cards, you will be pitching cards, and the pitched cards go to the bottom of your deck. And then you're drawing again, you're pitching, you're playing, you're discarding, and the pitched cards go to the bottom of your deck again. And sooner or later, you will get to the cards that you have pitched at the beginning of the game. Because remember, you're usually drawing on average 4 cards per turn. In a Blitz deck, in a 40-card deck, that means after 10 turns on average, you will start drawing the so-called second cycle of your deck. So if you want to start thinking about the depth of the game, start thinking about how you are setting up your deck for the late game. Think about that. Obviously, the game rules, the basics of the game rules are quite simple. I mean, I usually talk much more than I should, and it is not. And I'm just trying to give you some additional examples. But seriously, you can learn the game even with like videos that are 2 or 3 times shorter than this one. And you can just pick a deck up, you can read the cards as you go. That's what I did when I started the game, by the way. But if you want to get deeper, there's a ton of articles and videos on the internet, and I will be putting out additional videos for Flesh and Blood as well. But you can also, if you want to dive deep into the rules, there is a full comprehensive rule book, 50 or 60 pages long, and I will link that in the comments, in the description of the video. I will also link the image libraries on the official fabtcg.com page for the current expansions, so you can click on them and you can just go through all the cards that are available in the game by set. So far, we have 5 sets in the game, from Welcome to Wraith through Arcane Rising, through Crucible of War, Monarch, and right now Tales of Aria. And I guess these are the basics, hopefully explained in not as chaotic way as I usually do. And for now, this is going to be it. I hope you liked this lengthy video, and if you have any questions, just ask in the comments below or try to find me on my Discord. There is a link to that in the video description as well. And yeah, this is going to be it for now. Next up is probably going to be a draft guide for the current Tales of Aria drafting format, so stay tuned for that as well. And until then, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you will enjoy your games of Flesh and Blood. Calebovitsch out.